Hello Laziali all over the world, welcome back to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm Vittorio and Alasdair is back from Scotland. And Alasdair, before we start talking about the game, we have to thank some new patron. I know you did the research, so it's not Leech, right? How we should pronounce our new membership, a new member of Patreon page.
According to the first available video on YouTube, it's Lek.
Okay.
So if that's not right, blame YouTube.
Absolutely. So thanks, Lek, for becoming a member of our Patreon page. Remember, membership starts at just $2 a month. You get private chat. You get a monthly exclusive video Q&A. We're going to record it probably next week, Alasdair. So get ready. Find a space in your very busy schedule. And guys, if you want to support our channel, if you want to help us, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts at $2 a month. Alasdair, I don't remember last time Lazio won 5-1 at home.
No, I think I saw someone bring this up. I don't know if it was on our Patreon chat or where it was. And I haven't looked into it, so it's just off the top of my head, and I can't think either. I mean, maybe a Europa League game, did we manage to beat someone 5-1 in Europa League?
Against Nice, was it 5-1?
Yeah, Nice. Yes. Was it 5? This is a good start to the podcast.
Yeah, I think it was 4-1 though.
So it doesn't count. Yeah, I mean the full handful. Yeah, I mean great performance. We just we're talking in the last podcast about the fact that this Lazio team are so impressive in these matches against teams they should beat, with the odd exception. But I think the only exceptions were losing to Parma and Udinese. And Udinese was right at the start of the season, so circumstances a little bit different.
Yeah.
So otherwise, the only trip-ups really have been losing to Parma, which was bad, and then that draw against Como, which wasn't great. But generally, Lazio have been so impressive in these matches, and this was the biggest example yet, because bottom of the table, you're at home, there is no excuse in this kind of match. And what do? They absolutely destroy them. So, yeah, I mean, happy days. It's exactly what you want, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be fair, Udinese draw yesterday away against Napoli. That was unbelievable for me. I didn't see that coming, to be honest with you. When I saw 1-1, I said, okay, now Napoli is going to find a way to win. And yeah, we won't be that surprised. So that tells you that in Serie A, it's quite tricky, right? Udinese, in some games, they don't play at all. And in others, they surprise you. So it's incredible. And probably we played against when Parma was in the best shape. Now they are collapsing, but before they were quite a challenge for everybody. So yeah, it's true. Lazio managed way to win this game, but it was quite good. It was, to be honest, Alasdair, we finished the first half only up 1-0, but already in the first half we had so many opportunities, right?
Yeah, I thought they showed pretty good intensity from the start. They didn't concede right at the start of the game this time, which is always nice. So yeah, like you say, it took a while for those goals to start flowing, and I guess for that atmosphere where everyone just realized the game was over, probably at 3-0, everyone just started singing songs, and it seemed like a pretty happy place to be because there was no way back for Monza. I mean, it's probably a day to talk about the attacking part of our team more than the defensive part, even though I know before we started recording, the first thing you said to me was we managed to concede a goal again. And yeah, if we're looking ahead to Napoli later on, then that is probably something we can touch on. But in an attacking sense, this is Baroni ball. This is what it's all about. Plenty of numbers forwards, flooding the opposition penalty box, attacking down both wings, causing problems through the middle. And certainly against a team like this, a defense like it just gets to a point where the dam bursts. They just can't handle that amount of pressure. And I think across the forward line, Isaacson, Taty, Zaccagni all had impactful games, and probably Taty more than anyone.
You forgot to mention Pedro. Shall we close the podcast or should we continue? I mean,
I was talking about the starters, but yeah, obviously the bench again. And I read this morning 13 goals from substitutes this season, which is a club record. So, I mean, Baroni's doing really well on that count.
Alasdair, you mentioned all the strikers or attackers players. The first goal yesterday was from Adam Marusic. And from people who don't know, who've never been to the Stadio Olimpico, I'm sitting in the Distinti Nord, and Marusic scored on the other side. And me and my son, after the goal, spent like 30 seconds saying, was it Marusic? No, come on, it cannot be Marusic. We did bait with the others in Distinti Nord. What the hell was Marusic doing there? It's first half, we're still nil, and you have Marusic in the penalty box scoring. Surprising, right? Well, I had to double check it.
It's funny you say that, because the Fiorentina game, I was like in the middle of recording a voice note for a different podcast while Lazio were attacking, and they scored that goal, and I actually gave it to Husai. I was like, Husai has pulled a goal back for Lazio, and it was only when the replay was shown I was like, oh, it was Adam Marusic, not Husai. So he's on fire. I mean, you can't stop Adam Marusic from scoring goals at the moment. But yeah, it was. You expect Tavares to be in those kind of positions. I guess Marusic is like he's able to spread his wings a bit more under Baroni's style of football, and is probably being encouraged to get forward, especially if he can be a physical presence in the box in that way, to get on the end of high balls. And yeah, he was left completely unmarked, so it would have been impressive if he'd missed. But that's two goals in 3 games, is it, or 4 games, something like that?
And 2 headers. I think he scored more headers in Serie A rather than Taty Castellanos. So surprising.
Hey, you're not allowed to have a go at Taty Castellanos today.
No, today we cannot. Player of the game was Pedro, but as you were mentioning, Taty 2 assists and 1 goal. I'm not sure about the decision Serie A made, but in the last 5 games, Taty had 3 goals and 2 assists. So he's starting to ramp up. We said it at the beginning of the season. Do you remember you were saying, hey, Taty started really well the season. Then he's a little bit dropped, and now he's back on form. A little bit like
we got a few questions from patrons this week, and one from Leon was about Taty. What do you think about his performances recently? Has he improved, or is it just the opposition is weak enough to allow him to score? I think that would be quite a harsh assessment. I mean, look, there is. I was looking back through it, and it is true that there is a pattern where Taty is struggling to score against big teams. That ties into the whole general theme of Lazio struggling to score and have an impact against big teams this season. But I think of all Taty's 9 goals, I think, in Serie A now, 8 or 9.
Yep.
I think only 1 has been in what you would call a big game, which was that draw with Milan right at the start of the season. And the rest have been against lower table teams. And of course, it's just as important you're scoring against lower table teams. And that's a big part of the reason we're getting these results. So I'm not saying it's any less important, but clearly he is finding it easier in those matches. But I really think in terms of looking at his performances, yesterday we saw like the whole package of what he can do when he's at his best. And we've talked independently after certain games about the fact that he works so hard, the fact that he drops deep to try and tie together the attack in the midfield, and he's really useful in that sense, how hard he works, his aerial ability, the fact he's so good in the air, but that his finishing often lets him down. But yesterday, I think he did all those things, a beautiful assist for Pedro.
Yeah, the second was great.
And then using his heading ability to set up the first goal too, and then his finish was really good as well. So I think you got everything you want from Taty. It wasn't just that you get to highlight one of his strengths yesterday and say, oh, but the mark against him is that he missed a one-on-one, or, often that's the case when you're reviewing his performances. I think yesterday he did everything well, granted against a lower table team, but you still, like I say, it's just as important that you're performing in these matches. So I think we just have to applaud him for it.
Yeah, 12 goal and 8 assists in this season so far by Taty Castellanos. I think the last goal he scored in Serie A at the Stadio Olimpico was the one against Milan, because it was like 5 months he didn't score at home, which is curious, right, Alasdair? Because, there's nothing special that happened, but it looks like he's more free to score when we are playing away games. Maybe he has more space to run. I don't know. That's curious. But anyway, encouraging sign by Taty Castellanos. We have another question from our Patreon. Sean McNeil is asking about our new signing. Do the new signing or Basic find minutes with the upcoming busy schedule and tough matches? I think everybody was expecting Belayan to come in yesterday when the game was over. Rovella is close to the suspension. He's just one yellow card away from a suspension. Saturday there is Lazio Napoli, so it was a huge risk to keeping on. 3-0, 4-0, the game is over. You can bring Ibrahimovic in. He's been in Rome for 1 month and still didn't play a single minute. So when can we see them playing? I don't think against Napoli, right? But are they going to have an opportunity? I mean, Jimenez for Milan had a huge impact. Joao Felix as well. Our January signing still didn't make a minute so far. Will he ever play?
Well, first of all, that one is definitely pronounced Sean, not Seen. So I'm going to have to jump in there for one I do know. Yeah, I mean,
these Scottish names.
There's certainly an argument to be made that yesterday was the ideal opportunity to give Ibrahimovic at least some time, because the other is okay, just through the door a few days ago. Maybe he doesn't want to spook them or whatever. I'm not sure. I feel like you could throw Belayan in there because he's been playing all season in Serie A. It's not like you'd be worried about playing against Monza when you're 4-0 up. But Ibrahimovic is a weird one because he's been on the bench for 3 or 4 games now.
4 games.
Okay, maybe Noslin, Chauna are still the priorities because they're still the guys who've been there for longer, who he feels like he knows better and wants and feels like they also need that game time to build their own confidence and try and get some form. But you can probably do all of it, can't you? I mean, you could have brought on all 4 of those guys, Pedro, Chauna, Noslin, and Ibrahimovic in that match. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this is the problem with January signings, because from now on in, especially when they're really late in January signings, from now on in, all our games are just so important because this top 4 race is gonna be pretty close by the looks of it. Roma are making progress even further back. Milan have just signed an entirely new attack. Juve have brought in Colomwani, who seems to be on some sort of mission since he's arrived in Turin. So that's going to be tight. And then obviously we've got ambitions in the Coppa Italia and the Europa League too. So there's not many opportunities to kind of test players and give them easing them in. And 4-0 up against Monza is surely the biggest opportunity you'll find. I don't know when else we'll have it this easy between now and the end of the season. So,
yeah, I mean, Monza is bottom of the table. You're playing at home and you don't give a chance to any of those. It's concerning because nowadays Napoli, afterwards there's Venezia. It's an away game. Venezia should be another easy game, but you don't know how things will go on that game. So, yeah, as we were mentioning, Belayan is the only ready player we signed this winter. So, and this shows you, Alasdair, the impact of the transfer market window, the winter transfer market window. Milan and Juventus, both very good players that changed the squad. We sign players for the future rather than for this season, right? Belayan is 20, Ibrahimovic is 19, Prosgard is 21. So, probably the only ready is Belayan, who didn't come in yesterday. So I don't know what type of impact they will have this season. Obviously in the future, but Ibrahimovic has a buyout clause of 8 million euros. And if he doesn't play, I don't think Lazio is going to spend all that money. Plus, if he performs well, Bayern Munich can buy him back, right? So I don't see he's staying. So maybe he will finish this 6 month with a couple of minutes.
Well, it'll be interesting now to see if all that chat about, oh, Ibrahimovic, by the way, he can play as a midfielder.
Oh my God.
I've not heard that coming back since we actually signed a midfielder, which suggests to me that that was all basically just made up in advance to try and cover the fact that they were so slow at doing anything about that in the market. So, but yeah, I mean, 8 million isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. It's really not for a young player who's very highly rated, who's got Serie A experience. If he can come in and make an impact, that is not a lot of money to be spending to make that permanent. But you kind of want some sort of security to know that he's going to be a part of this. And now we've just got so many options in that attack. And obviously, Chauna and Isaacson were both in the papers throughout January. Are they going to stay? Are they going to go? And now that they both stayed, I do wonder if the club kind of thought that one of them might have gone.
Yeah.
And now we've got an extra player in attack who we don't necessarily need because we've got so many options up there now.
No, absolutely. And we talked about Isaacsen last week. I thought in the last month or so, he had an increase of performance. Even yesterday, he didn't score, but he created a lot of chances. Nosley, when he came in, he made that nice assist for Pedro. I thought it was a very good assist. And, I was thinking yesterday after the game, well, Nosley is playing well. He deserves to have more play time. But, we have so many players there that, it's going to be difficult. I mean, I can see Iglitare laughing at home saying, yes, more wingers. But, I don't know how much everyone can play. And again, I was impressed by Nosley's impact yesterday in the game. But you can only play 11, and we're already playing with 4 strikers. I don't think you can play with 5 going forward. So I don't know how much Ibrahimovic is going to play, to be honest with you.
Well, also, I mean, this ties into another one of the questions we had. Alec Pearson, he was talking about how basically a month or 2 ago the right-hand side of the attack did look like a point of weakness in the team. Yep. And like you say, Isaacsen's improvement, it now doesn't feel that way. It looks more balanced in general. And so his question was actually, he said, Provedel being isolated and letting in goals in general is a fact of life in our attack-focused tactics, which means it's a feature, not a bug. So where do you think our current main point of weakness is? It's a very Laziale question, isn't it? Like, we've just won 5-1. So what's our weakness?
Well, I think at the moment against big club, we show that probably we still lack of quality to play against these huge teams. So far, we won just against Napoli. We lost twice against Fiorentina, against Juventus, against Milan. I don't remember how Lazio Inter finished, and I don't want to remember it. So, the impression I have is that we lack of quality. We have very talented players that they need to grow, improve, because at this moment, I think the only star player who can have an impact in big games is Zaccagni. So probably it's not enough. But, we sign all... I mean, if nobody could expect that Lazio sign a 21 years old player and he's already top performance, being able to beat Inter and Milan. So we need to grow these players. Dele Bashiru yesterday, I thought he showed his talent, but he's inconsistent, right? He missed a huge opportunity 5 minutes before and then destroyed the net, the chance afterwards. He's a talent, but his performance are up and down, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. I think that the weakness is that I think we've built a stronger squad in terms of a squad that is clearly able to rotate more effectively, to get more of an impact off the bench. And I think that's a result of the fact that there aren't as many nailed-on starters as there were before, and the level doesn't dip hugely between the starters and the subs and so on. However, the main reason for that is that we are now lacking that kind of total star quality we used to have with Alberto and Sergei and Anderson and Ciro, these guys who were a kind of another level up. And that does mean, yeah, like when you play opposition who possess a lot of that star quality, that has shown a bit, especially, like I said, after the Fiorentina game in attack, because it looks like teams have now worked out if they can take a lead against us and defend, Lazio are just not really managing, despite having this very attack-minded strategy. They're not able to get that to work against better defenses, and that is a problem. And in defense, I agree about, obviously it's the risk rewards. They're happy to take those risks in the hope of getting the rewards, but I still think even despite that, we're conceding too many soft goals. You know, it's fine to concede some goals when you're taking those risks along the way, but you look at the league table here, and we've conceded 32 goals in 24 Serie A games. You have to go down to Udinese in 10th to find a team that's conceded more. And even then, below them, Torino have conceded fewer than that. So it's proper mid-table defensive statistics. And although, yes, I agree, that's part of the plan in a certain sense, I think it's just too easy to at least grab a goal or two against Lazio, even when we're dominating games like yesterday. Like you said, the fact that we're pretty poor, we've got this blind spot at the back post for some reason, and when it's not someone forgetting to mark their man or challenging in the air, it's Lazio throwing his arms up in the air as he jumps and playing basketball. So I'd say that's a weakness too.
I mean, the game was over. You should only, take your time, move the ball, and let the game finish. And that penalty was really stupid. Can I say it? I mean, I didn't see it from the stands. I had to watch the replay when I get home. But it's really stupid handball. Why do you jump like that? Yeah, a friend of mine said, "Hey, he's got pushed." But I mean, even if you get pushed, don't jump like that, right? I think this is the second penalty we conceded this season like that, which, I mean, I was finally saying, hey, maybe we're going to keep a clean sheet this game, and this is terrible. And this time, I know Alec was talking about him, we cannot blame Provedel, who nearly saved the penalty. So it's not that you can say, hey, Provedel is a disaster. Not this time. But I hope it doesn't have an impact at the end of the season, or this goal we conceded. The goal difference could be the key for reaching the Champions League or not. So we have to be very careful on that, right?
Well, probably the head-to-head first, which is a slight issue considering these big
Even
games.
worse.
Yeah. And I think on the back of that, like talking about defensive performances, fullbacks defending badly, we do need to touch on the Pellegrini story, which has happened basically almost as soon as we stopped recording last week, I think. Luca Pellegrini has been deregistered from the Serie A squad, and this has obviously been a bit of a talking point. What do you think of that, and Baroni's comments on it, the whole thing?
Well, not only from the Serie A list, even for the Europa League list. He's not playing anymore, basically, from here going forward, which is surprising. The thing is, unfortunately, with the list we have, with the squad we have, someone would have been out. We know Isai didn't play till January for this reason. It looks like Pellegrini behavior in the locker room and in training wasn't great, and that's the decision why Baroni took him out. Now, to be honest, in Europa League, I'm a little bit surprised because, there is a big chance that Isai will skip the next game because he's injured and he could be out for 2 months. So I thought, well, Isai is injured. Maybe you can bring back Pellegrini and play him at least in Europa League, which didn't happen. And the biggest surprise in the Europa League list is that Belayan is out. You just signed him. He's probably the most ready player you signed in January, and he's not in the Europa League list. That's quite surprising because it means that Guendouzi and Rovella will have to play every single game. But it looks like there is a behavior issue in the reason, and that Baroni made this decision all alone. Pellegrini have been linked with Besiktas because the transfer market window in Turkey closes tomorrow, I think, or Wednesday.
Ciro's getting on the phone to Luca.
But it looks like it's quite complicated because let's not forget that Pellegrini is still on loan. Lazio have 2 years loan with Juventus, and then they will have to buy him back this summer for 4 million euros. So pretty much Lazio have to terminate the contract. Juventus has to send him to Galatasaray, and Galatasaray have to sign the player. So it's quite complicated. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's been up and down all season long, right? Good performance, terrible performance. Sometimes it looks like his head is somewhere else, but I don't know. I mean, his guy deserved to be on the squad. In January, he played terrific. So
it's always hard to know with these things when it's about attitude and behavior. Obviously, from the outside, you can't really know for sure how things are on the inside because you're not seeing it. However, I do kind of believe Baroni on this because it's Baroni. He's not a kind of Mourinho style hanging your players out to dry in public to prove a point. He doesn't play those mind games. Well, he's not been doing it so far anyway. And generally the success has been built on good vibes so far, and very much like everyone very enjoying playing this style of football, enjoying that they're all getting good game time, and everyone seems to have bought into it, and it seems to be in a good atmosphere. So when Baroni comes out and starts talking about how, I mean, he did say, you know, the door is still open, is always open, and he's already seen good response from Pellegrini in training and so on. But I find it hard to believe that, you know, the whole thing's kind of made up or anything. There must be a behavioral issue or something Baroni sees in that he doesn't like for him to do this, because Baroni doesn't feel to me like a kind of coach who's there to prove a point by making statements like that. It does make the only thing is it obviously makes us look pretty fragile in that position because Husai's picked up his injury. Tavares is only just back from an injury. Lazzari's only just back from an injury. Marisic is wanting to play as a striker now anyway. You know, it's just because it all happened at the exact same time. We've just had Guendouzi and Mario Gila having to play as a fullback, that we've lost one of our fullbacks. So
yeah, and we said it here a lot of time. Probably we need 5 fullbacks going forward, as some of them are injury prone. Then, you know, you have to pick up the right one or the available one. We played last week with only one available, and it was Adam Marzic. So we were all saying, yeah, we need 5. And then suddenly we decide to take off Pellegrini. I know there were concerns in the Europa League list, and rumors were that Chana would have been dropped to make space to Hisayo, to Belayan. So that's probably the most surprising thing. I mean, we are playing in Europa League with Chana, Noslin, Castellanos, Dia, Isaacsen, Pedro. We have 6 wingers, attackers, etc., and 4 fullbacks.
The ghost of Iglitare lives on.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Without forgetting that you can even play Delebashiru there. So you have option of having 7 players there, and you have only 4 fullbacks. Doesn't make sense, right?
The one thing we've learned over the years, Vittorio, is the more wingers, the better. I mean, that's the philosophy.
Well, Guendouzi played well left back against Real Sociedad, so, you know, maybe Baroni thought about that.
Yeah. No, I do. I mean, I feel like Baroni has earned my trust this season in that if that's the way he calls it, then you gotta back him with that call, I suppose. But yeah, it does just feel a bit thin. Should we talk about Napoli before we finish?
Why not?
Because after all this chat about our problems in big games, this is the one big game we've not had any problems with so far. Beating them twice in the space of 4 days earlier this season. I mean, circumstances a little bit different perhaps, but does that give you more confidence around this? And they've just drawn a couple of games in a row, or is that the fact that they really need a response now? Does that make this timing worse in a way?
It's funny. It's funny because it was the moment where I was convinced Napoli is going to win the title. They're going to win the Scudetto. They're playing much better. And suddenly they drop points against Roma and especially against Udinese. So I think the Kvaratskhelia thing, we talked about the winter transfer market, and probably Napoli is the only big team that did worse than Lazio, right? They sold one of their key players and basically they didn't replace him. So this is a problem for them, obviously. But, as you were mentioning, Conte needs to win. It's difficult to believe they're going to go in a three games in Serie A without a win. So it's difficult. It's really difficult. It's really complicated. They are a very dangerous team. They can defend well. So it's good that we, after a beginning of the year, not that well, we had a lot of players missing. We look to be back in our top form, but I mean, it's going to be very difficult. Very hard game to win, right? Even a draw would be good, to be honest with you. Even because, if I'm not wrong, Juventus is playing against Inter or Fiorentina. There's another big game this weekend.
Inter, yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, but it's probably good timing. I mean, if I think we want Inter to just keep winning where possible there. But yeah, I think Napoli are a funny one. I still don't really understand why we beat them twice and have struggled against everyone else. And with an A team and a B team against their A team and their B team, different competitions. I think that was a good period for Lazio. I do worry they do need a response.
Yep.
They are a team that is a Conte team, of course, so they're well organized. So that those kind of things we're talking about previously around the quality of the attack and the need for them to be really clinical. I think those points still stand here. I do worry about, if you leave yourself exposed to the kind of pace of someone like Neres, that's a problem. You can't allow Lukaku to be bullying you, and you can't allow, most of all, I mean, maybe I would say this, but the thing that worries me the most is, and I talked about it last week, Lazio keep leaving themselves exposed to this goal where wingers attack the byline and cut it back to around the penalty spot, and there's always a space there. And I'm sorry, but Scott McTominay lives for that. That's what he does all the time. He makes those runs into those areas. And if Lazio aren't smart at marking McTominay, Anguissa as well has been doing the same thing. But Napoli are getting a lot of goals from that kind of position this season. And McTominay's runs from deep are something we need to be really careful about. I'm not just saying that because I absolutely love that guy.
No, you're not saying that because he's Scottish, right? You're smiling,
Well, he scored again this weekend. I mean, okay, not from that kind of goal, but he's a dangerous player. It's not just about Lukaku and Neres. I mean, they're getting a lot of success from that.
I think the reason why Lazio beat Napoli in the Serie A, because in Coppa Italia, Napoli played with a B team, and you know that Conte doesn't have a B team, and the players on the bench are considered rubbish and defeated. But the reason why Lazio beat Napoli away was because for the first time, and probably the only time this season, we played a different type of football. We were more careful. We were defending better. We were going full attack mode. And I think we conceded something in the first half to Napoli. But after that, in the second half, they pretty much didn't do nothing. And we had more space, and they were focusing, trying to attack full mode. So that's the secret. If we, against big team, don't go crazy attacking with every single player we have, but be more careful, we have an opportunity, even against Napoli. Even because, without Kvaratskhelia, they are less dangerous there. Yeah, I agree with McTominay, etc. But if we play smart football, we have an opportunity. Especially seeing like Castellanos is playing now, Isaacson is playing now. Zaccagni didn't score yesterday, but made another assist. I thought he made a good game. So
the question I've got is, and this might depend a little bit on Diaz's injury, because I'm not sure. It didn't look that bad because he walked off, but I'm not sure if he'll be fit or not. But say he is, do you revert to a 4-3-3? You know, maybe bring in Delebashiru like we did, I believe, in that game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Delebashiru played instead of Rovella in that game.
But was it a 4-3-3 in that match, or was it still the 4-2-4 kind of thing?
4-2-3-1, I would say.
Okay.
I recorded well. Let me check.
Well, anyway, but do you go for that more, say, conservative selection, or do you stick with Dia and Taty together because of the fact that they do link up well together? And I think Taty plays better when he's got Dia with him. Lazio's results in general this season have been better when they're playing together. But obviously, when you play all four of those guys up there, it does leave you naturally playing a more attacking style.
You know, I think that Delebashiru can have a huge impact in that game. His physicality, his pace can create problem. The problem is, as we were mentioning before, is that you don't know which Delebashiru will play, right? He could be the one we saw in the away game against Napoli, but he could be even the player we saw, what was it, against Fiorentina, that was subbed after 45 minutes. So that's the question mark we have. But I think Delebashiru has an incredible talent. He can be really a game changer, especially in this Serie A. So yeah, if I can, I would find a way to play Delebashiru
as a 10, maybe, because he's not going to play ahead of Guendouzi or Rovella.
Especially this Rovella. I mean, yes.
So I mean that would then be a kind of the 4-2-3-1, but with Delebashiru, I guess, as a slightly less attacking 10 than Dia would be.
Yeah, or maybe move it around, switching from 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1. I mean, you have those pieces that can move. Delebashiru can play not in front of the defense, but in a three-man midfield, definitely. So yeah.
Someone's going to have to, and this is where I think Taty and Dia have worked really well together, but someone's going to have to annoy Lobotka, because you can't let him just dominate the game. So you are going to have to be clever in your pressing game to actually try and shut down the way that they build their moves. It's an interesting one. I think it's a really big game, because I think it's not just the league leaders and so on. It is just from a purely Lazio focusing on yourself context, just a way of trying to quieten down some of this noise around big games versus small games and the rest of it. And it would be a statement win should they pull it off. I mean, 3 in a row against the league leaders would be incredible.
Yeah, and would be 3 points, very important, and an incredible boost of confidence for the team. January, as we said, the year didn't start very well, but now we're picking up. And if you win against Napoli, I'm not saying you reach the Champions League, because it's going to be really difficult this season, but it's going to be a huge boost for the squad, for the team, for the players. And, there's Juventus, Inter, other teams are competing in the Champions League, so maybe they will be tired. So you have a huge opportunity of gaining points against your opponent. So against one of the biggest team we have in Serie A. So that would be massive. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's going to be very difficult. I mean, I don't think Lazio is favorite in this game, but it's open, right?
Yeah. I think they need to not pay too much attention to the fact Napoli have had a couple of poor results as well. I mean, they're still at the top of the table for a reason. And despite the 2 wins earlier in the season, Lazio winning would still be an upset, I think. There's no other way around it. And I think Baroni was trying to make this point after the Monza game, that there's nothing, we need to not start saying or acting like this is normal. Like, this was supposed to be a kind of big transition season, and now we're up in the top 4 and Europa League knockouts, and we're like challenging against the big teams, and that's not what any of us expected. So, it's worth, I think that can be a healthy attitude, because it allows you to keep your feet on the ground and kind of have kind of laser focus in a way, and not get complacent about anything.
I mean, if Conte can say, no, we are not the best team in Serie A, we are not fighting for the Scudetto, and he's top of the table, then we can say anything, right? We are fighting for relegation and things like that. I think we have to be honest. Lazio is overachieving this season, but as well, we have to mention Juventus, Milan, Roma underperforming, massively underperforming. I don't think a lot of us were expecting Juventus to play so badly. I mean, they won against Como, but how did they win? You know, there have been 3 days of discussion for that penalty not given to Como. So, you know, Lazio is playing well, but we wouldn't be in that position if Juventus, Milan, and Roma weren't underperforming, right?
Yeah, but you know that does seem to be the case in Serie A. None of these teams are consistent, so you always every season there's someone who's underperforming. So it's really up to teams like Lazio to take advantage when that happens. So yeah, and it you know there is a chance at the moment, looking like a decent chance. Italy could get 5 spots again, but you really can't rely on that. So
it'll be difficult.
And Lazio are a big part of the reason why there's a good chance at the moment. So, yeah. Anyway, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. It's quite easy to at this time of the season because it's all in front of you. But yeah, I think just first of all focus on trying to beat Napoli again.
Yeah, but it's good because you know everything changed. We started the year terrible, losing the derby, underperforming, losing a lot of stupid games, etc. And now suddenly the things have changed. We got players back, and the performance have improved. The morale of the team have improved. So definitely heading the right way. But yeah, the season is very long. Europe League, Serie A, Coppa Italia. Let's not forget there's Inter Lazio, Coppa Italia. So a lot of challenges ahead, but definitely we are heading in the right direction. So let's be positive and focus on the next game. Very difficult game. And Alasdair will be back after Lazio Napoli. So take care, guys. Support us if you want. And take care.
Cheers.